Hey, what's up? We are doing something new today, a listen along or let's listen or live reactions to listening to music. I don't know what to call it. But the new Kanye album is out, and I felt like it would be a good chance to try something like this. I used to do this in text form on my blog, but since the YouTube channel is much more popular than the blog and it's a lot easier to make videos than to write, I thought I would give this a try. Obviously, we can't actually play the music in the video. I've got my desktop audio mute and my speakers muted. But what I'll do is I will show you when I'm starting the album and you can listen along on your own. That's the plan, at least. I don't know if I'm gonna like talk during the album or what, because that would kind of like get in the way of the music. But probably like afterwards we'll have a little discussion or something. Go back and listen to parts again, maybe. So I was pretty shocked when this album came out and when there was reports of listening parties for it and such. I really doubted that an album was actually forthcoming, even though he gave a specified release date and stuff. Since then, there was like pictures of whiteboards with track names, and it really did not seem like he was that far along. So I was shocked, but pleasantly surprised. I don't know. Kanye's been going through some rough stuff. We talked about it at length at the end of the "What Music Am I Listening To" video, hip hop edition. Sorry, I'm just gonna open the window quick because it is super hot right now. Okay. Yeah, he's allied himself and come out publicly in support of some very destructive, cruel people, people that go really directly against his stated views before. And he's doing all of this just in the name of free speech and free expression, and he sees in Donald Trump the ultimate representation of someone who has just exceeded their societal limits and made something for themselves, becoming president, which is pretty stupid given that Donald Trump is the inheritor of a gigantic real estate empire. But Kanye doesn't really care about those details. It's more just kind of in what these people represent to him. Again, everything kind of being advocated for in the name of free speech and freedom of expression and not being limited at all in what you can say or do or think. And like that's all well and good. I just wish he had found better examples of advocates of free speech and of free speech making a difference and of radical experimental thought. He doesn't have to go deliberately to the place that people are telling him not to go, and for good reason, just so that he can spitefully say, I'm going there anyways. Like, that is very self-defeating logic, and in doing this, he's like validated a whole bunch of people that have never had this sort of validation before. And I think he's doing like real damage to just the general sanity of the American public. I don't know. Through this, though, I'm willing to separate that from the music. I'm willing to go into this just with a completely unbiased viewpoint and kind of thinking of Kanye as just acting normally during this time, as difficult as that may be. Holy crap, it's hot. I'm sweating so much. I actually think opening the window may have made it hotter because there's like no breeze whatsoever. Whew. Anyways, the music he has released during this time has been very strange. Lift Yourself is the trolliest he's ever been. Just straight up a prank on his listeners, which, isn't actually that unenjoyable. Ye versus the People, his debate track with T.I. is like the exact opposite. It's so sincere and straightforward that it's almost painful to listen to. And he's doing his best to kind of put some sort of coherent, logical thesis behind his recent behavior, but it just really isn't coming through that strong. In the end, I think my only real qualm with everything he's doing is just how public he's been with it. and how aggressively confrontational he's been with anyone who's criticizing him or offering him friendly advice or anything like that. That's where the real damage is being done, is in this lack of foresight. But I think all of that can be explained, if not forgiven, because of his actual mental state. This is the album cover of the new album, which is just called Yay. I hate being bipolar. It's awesome. I think this is the first time that Kanye has ever directly admitted that he is actually bipolar. There has been a lot of speculation about it, based on medications that he mentions taking and things like that, and just kind of his general behavior. But I think this is the first time he's ever actually put the name to it. It kind of reads like a joke, that the real stereotypical outsider perspective on bipolar is that you're up and down and you're self-contradictory and you're saying and doing things that don't jive with what you've said and done before. But I don't know, there's like a real truth to this that we can't deny, that Kanye probably, as other bipolar people have said, really embraces his manic periods at some times. The creative energy that you would get during a manic period, the flight of ideas and the self-confidence and the blowing out of perspective where everything you're doing feels of utmost importance. That can be really powerful for someone in a creative period. And historically, it has been pretty powerful for Kanye too. Like the My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy sessions have become the stuff of legend. It's like the hip-hop equivalent of Captain Beefheart locking the Magic Band away in a house when they were recording Trout Mask Replica. He took all of these really talented musicians and producers and engineers, secluded them away in Hawaii, and they just grinded out one of the greatest albums, period, ever made. So with that, I can kind of hope that this album will be similarly good. This is presumably a picture taken in Wyoming, sorry, not Wisconsin, Wyoming, that sounded wrong. I got all of these states mixed up. Wyoming, where again, he took a ton of talented musicians, secluded them away out into the mountains, and worked nonstop. Until this actually came out, I thought maybe he had become a little creatively bankrupt and this had amounted to nothing. Just because of the lack of leaks and hype and stuff around the album. Like when The Life of Pablo was coming out, it was all anyone in hip-hop was hearing about for months and months and months before the album's actual release, which was besieged by pretty much every single setback imaginable. Whereas this, despite all of the controversy around Kanye and all the bizarre Twitter rants and stuff, kind of rolled out as smoothly as it could have. Like, he said, okay, it's coming out June 2nd, and here we are on June 1st, and it's out, it's here. Okay, I don't know, I don't have too much else to say. I'm pretty excited to hear it. I saw that it had come out right after I got to work, and then I just had to sit there at work all day, thinking about it and waiting for it and getting hyped up. So yeah, let's dive in. I'm going to start playing it now. Okay, so if you want to listen along at home, press start now. Oh, shoot. Okay, sorry, false alarm. It was playing something else. Okay, press start now. Oh. Oh shit! Oh my god! Ooh. Is this like the hook? Ooh. 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 Ooh, what the fuck? Ooh. What? Yeah. And, sometimes myself. Ooh. 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 What the? 2CB? What? What? Oh no! Kanye, no! Ooh. Serve. Myself, some self, something. Myself, some self. Never heard it. I thought I can't believe Kanye said 2CV. Tweaking off that 2CV. What? I don't know. Ooh. But he... Did he just say he wasn't a superhero in the first track? If I'm a superhero, then where's my cape? Or did he just genuinely want a cape? This is so buggy. This is fantastic. Ooh! Is that The Dream? Is this Ty Dollar Sign? Or is this... Ooh. Woo! Whoa! Ooh. It's amazing. This is what? Oh my god. Oh man. Oh man. Oh man. Whoa, is that a Drake diss? Do you think? Because Drake might get the Adidas contract soon? Ooh. Ooh. Is this some soul samples? Kanye still got the soul samples too? Ooh. Wow. That's pretty real. Oh. Wow. No, just have to do it off. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh. Oh. Oh, he's so good. Just big, big sounds. Just, ooh, like that. Like that. That's a big sound. Ooh, ooh. I still love you. Whoa. Uh, ooh. What is this sample? Believe it or not, make no mistake, alive. Make no mistake, I still love you. Ooh. Ooh, 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 ooh. Yeah. Ooh. Oh. Ooh, it's a funky bass line. From Ooh. Who is this? I have no idea who this is. That would make you bleed, would it? Free. The kids we used to be. I fuck with this so heavily though. Who is this? This sounds familiar. You're kind of free. This really sounds like a kid singing. If I still bleed, nothing hurts anymore. I feel kind of free. What? This is bizarre. Wakata. I got it. I got it. I understand Kanye now. I realized. I realize now. Night, night. Alright. Wow. Wow, okay. Crazy, crazy. I love it. I love it. I love it, but it's okay, alright, okay. Where do I even start? So because of certain references on the album, like the reference to his absolutely crazy 400 years of slavery was a choice, where he says 400 years, that sounds like a choice to me, which is just like one of the stupidest things I've ever heard anyone say. But because of that, we know that this album was made since that TMZ interview. I love when he's like, it's a good thing they didn't catch me on a wild day too, like that he could have said something somehow even more ridiculous than that. But anyways, so we know that the album was made since then. The album is like fairly minimal in production. It's like instead of Kanye's usual extreme complexity and like myriad of samples and stuff all going on at once, it's a lot of like kind of just synth beats. There's a lot of really nice piano in there. There's some samples, but they're used kind of like sparsely. Not either kind of in the dominant mode of some of his later albums where like he'll cut entirely just to a sampled track, and not of course in like the kind of chop it up and integrated into the beats fashion either. Just kind of like there a bit, just to kind of like set the stage on a couple tracks. So my feeling is that all of this was done very quickly and done to meet this deadline that he set up for himself. And done all kind of at once because it's like a very cohesive sound. More than any other of his albums, it feels like there's a lot of recurring synth sounds and recurring kind of melodic elements and stuff that all kind of just runs together. So with that said, like, I think it makes sense that it has this kind of minimal, straightforward quality, but it's really good. Like the tones and textures and soundscape that we do have is just beautiful. It has that kind of like Phil Spector-ish wall of sound quality where it's just you're overwhelmed by this beautiful, loud, all-encompassing noise that sometimes even drifts into like abrasiveness. There is some moments, geez, I'm not going to be able to remember which track is which. I think near the end of All Mine, where it's hitting you with that like kind of recurring like kind of sound. I just love that. I really love that. So in a way, it kind of reminds me of Yeezus with this kind of playing around with abrasive stuff. The sound was often like FML on T-Lop. And his flow was often like FML too, and the attitude was very FML like. Yeah, going back to Phil Spector, like I thought about killing you. That just blew my mind. The straightforwardness with which he said that. What I think we'll do now is like maybe go on Rap Genius or something and kind of look through these lyrics Mass. I assume it's on here. Yeah, here we go. It's 124 people. No. There's 1,018 people viewing this right now, which is kind of cool. Francis and the Lights. Ooh, okay. He did a song with Chance the Rapper that Kanye was involved with in some capacity. He was like in the video at least. So yeah, there's like a lot of spoken word stuff. A lot of like bipolar themes, if not just straight up references to that. Yeah, again, this is of course referring to like very recent controversy. Like this started getting crazy too, and then his voice starts sinking lower and lower, and I started wondering like we don't. I talk about Kanye's belief system as if it's kind of this one coherent thing, but a lot of it is more just kind of saying things spur of the moment. It seems like when he said the legendary George Bush doesn't care about black people, that was like pretty true in a lot of ways. Like the handling of Hurricane Katrina was extremely botched. FEMA did like a bad job, and Bush did a bad job, and it seemed like poor black people in Katrina were getting really disproportionately affected. But I kind of feel like Kanye didn't really grasp the entirety of that. It was more just it came to mind. So at this point I started wondering, like, does Kanye actually believe in a lot of the really terrible misanthropic shit that comes out of the alt-right about, like, I don't know, natural hierarchies of people and the fact that some people are just inferior and don't deserve to live in Western civilization? Like, I don't know, like, it feels, I don't want to like accuse him of that or whatever, but I started thinking like maybe he's right, that like he's actually still very much self-censoring himself, and that there's like a real darkness coming through. But this is like one of the most Kanye-esque things ever. It's just like, it's trying to lead to more people probably say it's struggling with loving myself. That's not the case here. I love myself way more than I love you. This is where he first starts rapping. Like some real fatalistic stuff. It seems like he's really been reading and researching a lot. You know, that kind of almost like first year philosophy student that has like an existential crisis when he learns about existentialism and nihilism and such. But, you know, like, I haven't heard Kanye say stuff like we were born to die before. Yeah, but, yeah. Oh, the other people are the hero. Later I was like, oh, didn't Kanye just say he was a hero? But he was talking about other people. And then even after like all of this deep discussions and like use the floor for ashtrays and stuff, like really exposing these like very dark and private parts of himself, the fact that he ends it with this like pretty cheap pun, don't get your tooth chipped like Frito-Lay. It's crazy. But no, I was really impressed with this song. The spoken word was chilling. And this song, Yikes, what a hilarious title. Somebody just, child is screaming outside. Yikes is like, I think the most powerful response on the internet right now. If you get yikes, like what could possibly be the comeback? But whatever. This blew my mind. That Kanye is apparently taking 2CB and DMT, which are like pretty strong experimental hallucinogenics. It doesn't surprise me that Kanye is into hallucinogenics in general. Like I assume he kind of does drugs, but 2CB and DMT are like for kind of like nerds of psychedelics, you know? Like I at least, in my opinion, they haven't really hit the mainstream yet. Like they're not in the cultural context of like LSD or something. So it shocked me, like it really shocked me to hear Kanye saying 2CB. Like anytime I hear 2CB in music, there's a, this is a tangent, but there's a song by Magical Clouds called Are You Alone, I think? Magical Clouds, Are You Alone? I love this song. I love that they riff on Radiohead lyrics. 2CI and 2CB. When I heard this, I was like, what the hell? Like, do people know about this? But Magical Clouds is like a big indie nerd, so it made a little more sense. Kanye, anyways. Um, this kind of made me a little comfortable. Pray for him because he got Me Too. Thinking about what happened to Me Too. Like, Kanye just, I feel like he's too willing to just kind of buy into these conspiracy theories. Where he can't just sort of see like, accept the shitty truth that, like, some of his idols are just shitty people. You know, he's the one that tweeted in all caps, Bill Cosby innocent, when it should have been pretty clear to everyone, and now has been legally proven, Bill Cosby not innocent. And I have no reason to think that Kanye could get Me Too'd, so to speak. And I don't think that he has any reason to think that he could get Me Too'd either, unless there are some real skeletons in his closet that I don't know about. But the fact that he's, like, still paranoid about it, and he seems to think that it's just kind of, like, randomly attacking people, and it's not, like, a legitimate response to sexual assault, really explains a lot. There's a real kind of manic vulnerability in that. Yeah. What else did I want to talk about? Just a different type. Is this again about he's gonna run for president? Is that really gonna happen? Kanye 2020? I don't know, man. Got demons on me, devil trying to make an army. Like, I don't know how literally to take this, you know? Like, to what extent does this paranoia really involve almost like this hallucinatory quality that, like, it's the devil against him, and that all of these things that are happening to him aren't reasonable responses to things he's doing, but are instead the devil coming at him? I don't know. But yeah, this is my bipolar shit. Like, that's... I did not think... I mean, I shouldn't be so flippant to say stuff like, whoa, this is crazy, because it seems like maybe I'm trivializing mental illness. I don't want to do that at all. But it is surprising to me and shocking to me with the straightforwardness and his lack of restraint in talking about mental illness now. Okay, yeah, I thought it was Ty Dolla $ign. I don't know who Valley is, though, that was doing this falsetto. I thought it might be, The Dream, who Kanye's collaborated with before, and who Kanye has, like, done a really excellent job producing a lot of times before. He sounds really good over these, like, huge sounds, but, like... So here it seems like for once they're kind of moving away from these themes of, like, mental illness and mental distress and Kanye's, like, paranoia and mania and such. But he kind of, like, brings it back in again. This is amazing. Could have me a Naomi Campbell and still might want me a Stormy Daniels. I realize that Kanye has actually been saying this so many times on so many albums, that he's just constantly tempted by women, that even when he's in a stable relationship and loves the person he's with, he still finds himself tempted, which I think is, like, a much larger cultural problem. Like, not even necessarily a cultural problem, but just, like, a widespread individual problem. Like, and the fact that he relates it back to Stormy Daniels, like, explains yet another instance of Kanye sympathizing or empathizing with Donald Trump, and kind of unravels the mystery a little further as to why Kanye could have any respect for that sack of shit. But I gotta say, of all of the terrible things Trump has done, this whole Stormy Daniels thing actually strikes me as one of the more sympathetics, because it just makes no sense. Like, why would he do something that stupid? Why would he do something so unimaginably risky to every single facet of his personal and public and professional life? Of course, you know, it didn't end up hurting him at all, apparently. But, you know, we're kind of past the truth or reality era these days. At any rate, it still seems like it should have been risky. And yet the fact that he still did it to me signals some really desperate, deep down need, like a physical craving type addiction to sex. That I think, yeah, I don't know. In retrospect, it's like, yeah, Kanye probably has that too. He's been saying that sort of thing for a long time now. This I thought was hilarious. All these thoughts on Christian Mingle. No idea that we're gonna have a Christian Mingle reference. Um, None of us would be here without cum. What? That's amazing. See, pull up with the 3-star. I don't know. Maybe we'll see what Rap Genius thinks. But part of me was like, is this a Drake diss? Is this... Because, you know, Pusha T has been fighting, like, really brutally with Drake, like, no holds barred. And when Drake pulled Kanye into it, Pusha T fired back at Drake's producer, 40, like, really brutally hard. I don't know. Let's see what they think. Uh-huh. Oh, okay. But, like, who is this you? Who is this you? He'll choose a girl? Oh, okay. I guess so. I guess he's still, like, talking about girls or something. I don't know. Okay. This is a good song, too. This song was... Oh, Party Next Door. Okay. I should recognize that. This impressed me, too. This kind of felt like, in the mode of Bound 2, where he's just kind of like airing his dirty laundry in a way that's like very sentimental and like very loving. Like this sort of, I love you so much that I can't help but sing about all of this shit that we're going through, that kind of feeling. Like this is so honest and so straightforward. Like my wife called and stream and say, we're about to lose it all. Like she probably did call and say, what the hell are you doing? We are gonna lose it all if you don't stop tweeting about how much you love Trump. Oh yeah, Jeremiah. He got in like all of the falsetto hip hop singers. It seems a little redundant, right? But they're all used to such great effect and such unique great effect. I'm really curious about who it was on the penultimate track. It sounded so much like a kid. This I was really impressed by. It's got me sentimental. You know I'm sensitive. I got a gentlemental. Every time something happens, they want to be sentimental. Oh man! And like again, it's only obvious in retrospect, but the amount of comments where people were like, "Man, Kanye should be institutionalized. Like Kanye needs to go to the hospital or something," which could be made as like a joke, could be made as like sincere advice, but from like obviously a very distant and one-faceted perspective. But there were a lot of people like legitimately. Like, well, we don't know how legitimately, but they were tweeting and stuff, Kanye go to the hospital. That must be so terrifying to someone in the grip of a manic episode who's, like, probably writing this stuff all the time and thinking nonstop about the albums he wants to make and doing all of this crazy research. To be told by strangers, by probably tens of thousands of strangers on the internet that you should go to the mental hospital would probably terrify the shit out of you, right? Like, so yeah, again, like all of these things, I feel a lot more empathetic in retrospect after I really see his perspective through these tracks. He's always been way better at expressing himself through music than he has in tweets or in interviews, so I'm not too surprised that this has happened, but it's a pretty powerful transformation for me, because I was honestly getting close to just writing him off. Like, I thought he was just doing so much damage to all of the people that support him most and care about him most, that he has so much power to help. He was damaging them so much, and he's still, I can't deny that he did do that damage, but it's like, I don't know, man. I feel for him. I really feel for him. Butterfly in my wrist, it seems like like this... get the genie out the bottle. Like, just this feeling of energy bursting through him seems to be a fairly common motive. Keep the same energy and stuff. Like, I don't know. It really feels like he's in the real grips of a manic episode here. Um, but at this refrain, I knew you wouldn't leave, and I know you wouldn't leave. You know, she would leave now, but she wouldn't leave. It's nice. Again, it reminds me a lot of Bound too. That like after all of this, the ultimate message is like, we're together though. You know, we're gonna stick through it together because in the end, we really do love each other. So it's a nice message. Oh, Kid Cudi. Of course. This is Slick Rick sample, sure. Oh, and Charlie Wilson again. Just all the singers. I got white on my beard. That really caught me off guard too. Like I've never heard Kanye acknowledge aging. I think like ever. The closest is what you want, a boss or an R&B guy with a six pack, like kind of acknowledging that he was putting on weight a little. But I think this is the first time he's talked about aging like this. It's like, wow. So who knows? Shaky ass ear. Yeah, you're saying it. I don't take advice from people less successful than me. Like this sort of attitude again, and kind of speaking to success as this single dimension metric. That like he probably sees Trump as more successful than him because he's president, which is just so ass backwards, and it really hurts me, and it makes me feel bad for Kanye that he views getting elected president as somehow more of a success than being one of hip hop and modern music's most accomplished and critically and publicly beloved and genre defining and defying musicians. Like that is actually how his priorities works, like is really kind of devastating to me because he's never ever going to achieve the sort of success that he thinks he wants then. He's not going to win the presidency, man. It's just not going to happen. Even though he thinks that Donald Trump being elected proves that he could be president too. And sure, it's about as good as argument as we've ever had for Kanye being electable, but it doesn't make him electable. Of course, I said Trump was unelectable too, so what do I know? True wrongs, True Soul of Ice Cube. I don't know. I was like really impressed with the structure of this song and some of the other songs, though, where even though the production was like very straightforward and kind of linear compared to a lot of his other albums, he still like combined these few elements in a way that gets that kind of like dizzying feeling, you know? I don't know if I can explain it too well. That Kanye does on quite a lot of tracks like really nicely, where it feels like sound is just coming from more directions than actually exist in the 3D space. It's really, really beautiful. Okay. This is the one where we have this mysterious singer. Don't you bet it all on a pack of fentanyl. Man, Kanye is hitting the drug nerd drugs now. Well, actually, fentanyl has long since been a drug, long since ceased to be a drug nerd drug, and is now just like a major menace to society and one of the worst plagues in drug abuse history. But talk like I drank all the wine. I saw that line coming and it made me really satisfied. As soon as he said take all the shine, I knew he was gonna say drank all the wine. Leave behind. 070 Shake. I have no idea who that is. Oh wait, maybe this was explaining it. A rapper singer from New Jersey. She signed to Kanye's Good Meal. Wow. Huh. Alright, cool. I hadn't heard about that. I was like really impressed with this. This kind of real childlike, like forefronting, not like an amateurish quality, but kind of like an outsider quality. I really like the sound of people who haven't been like classically trained to singing. Like the little nuances and oh yeah, so she's on Daytona too. Okay, that's exciting. I'm gonna have to listen to this EP. Like the little idiosyncrasies, that's the word I'm looking for. The idiosyncrasies of the human voice that emerge when they're singing and that emerge when you know that they're singing like really boldly and like shamelessly, and they're not trying to hide those idiosyncrasies, but they're really owning them as a unique facet of their voice. That really touches me. I think that's really beautiful. So I thought this whole section was just like fantastic, and kind of like that almost childlike conversational tone to the lyrics too. I feel kind of free. Still the kids we used to be. Yeah, yeah. And like this line doesn't make sense to me. You don't bleed when you put your hand on the stove, but whatever. Suppose you get a blister that bleeds or something. I don't know. But yeah, I was really impressed by this. It kind of reminded me of the outro to Blonde, Frank Ocean's Blonde, where it kind of goes into this like small childlike world where everything like feels very close and immediate and emotionally strong, which I think might be a facet of being in the real grips of mania, that it returns to almost like a childlike state. That's something that I've heard before, but I don't want to really like go in on it too much or whatever. It's just the thought. And then this song, talking a lot about his kid. She's like, Nikki, I'll make her a monster. Like this idea that he doesn't want his daughter to become, or his daughters, I suppose, because now Chicago was born too, to become too voluptuous or sexually desirable because men are monsters, is really like I see now where the additional paranoia has come from. I really think, and I had kind of gotten glimpses of this on Wolves on the last album, but it makes sense that it's just been stewing in his mind. So it's like, yeah, that's true. On We Major, he goes, "Pray to God she don't grow breasts too soon." Gangsta throwing up. Yeah, yeah. Okay, so I guess this has always been a concern of his. But now that the kids are actually here, like on We Major, he didn't have kids. Now that the kids are actually here, it seems like it's become a real major occupation of his. That, like, Kanye himself, I think he has a lot of confidence in his strength and a lot of confidence in his sort of invincibility when faced with outside antagonism, but he's worried about his kids. And I think thinking about his kids makes him so much more concerned about his own reputation and so much more concerned about just like the future of the world and stuff, and of evil people and conspiracies against him and conspiracies against the good in the world and demons and Satan for stuff, for all I know. All of that, I'm sure, becomes so much more real when you have kids. Because, like, even if something happens beyond your comprehension, something that you can't possibly prepare for, that is just devastating, if it's just to you, you kind of just have to accept it, right? Like, you have to just be like, okay, well, I couldn't possibly have dealt with demons, you know? But when you have kids, and you have that totally unconditional, is that the word I'm looking for? Yeah, unconditional love for your kids. Like, that love doesn't just get turned off when you're like, oh, but what about the demons? You're still thinking, like, no, I have to solve this somehow. Like, no, I have to protect my kids, even from things that you can't possibly protect yourself from. You know? Like, I think you really do get that feeling. That's like, one of the terrifying, beautiful things about raising children, I would imagine. I'm mostly basing this off of Karl Ove Knausgaard's work. I don't know anything about raising children firsthand, of course. Yeah, man, I don't know. Once I heard that, once I realized just how much... then this... like this outro. This thing is so funny. That he calls Nicki Minaj. Because, okay, so you remember with T-Lop, there was the big controversy around Taylor, did Taylor Swift approve of the lyrics on Famous or not? And she said she didn't, and then the call got leaked by Kim of her approving it. But, like, here, Kanye just puts the call on the album. Just so you're sure. Just so you're sure. He puts it right at the end. Oh man. Oh man. Alright. So we kind of like took a quick glance through the lyrics. I think that covered like most of the stuff I wanted to say about it, but it's hard to tell. Like, I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that. I hope you had fun watching this video. I think I'll do it again for some other albums. Maybe I'll do one for Daytona because I still haven't listened to that. Maybe the new A$AP Rocky album. Maybe the new 106 Point Never album. Maybe the new Father John Misty album. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if any of those you really do want to hear or watch more than others. I think it's like an okay format. Like I feel pretty happy with this little discussion that we had afterwards. But like during the album, I didn't really feel comfortable like trying to talk too much because of course I was trying to listen to the music as well. And then because of that, there's like a lot of things that I think I thought of and then forgot. So maybe like doing a hybrid of both the album and then also like typing notes that I think of, like Kanye is bipolar. And then, you know, like being able to refer to these notes afterwards might be a good system. I don't know. Yeah. If you're curious, you can look at the ones I used to do here. I did quite a few of them. It was a lot of fun too, but I think making the video was more fun. It felt a little more free. But I basically just did the same thing. I would just like type the whole time. I would like quote a lot of lyrics and stuff, but we kind of covered that by like going back and I talked about the lyrics that I felt like talking about. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. I'm just so... In the end, I think I am proud of him. Even though, as I said, this album feels a little slapdash, kind of recorded in one session maybe, and doesn't have like the creative diversity of some of his other albums. Sure, and it's very short compared to his other albums. It's only 23 minutes long, which is kind of disappointing. Yeezus is the second shortest, and it at least is a full 40 minutes. Sure. Still, though, I think I'm proud of him, which is the most surprising thing I think I could have said. Like, if I love it, yeah, I still love this album, and that doesn't surprise me that much because it's Kanye, and even at his lowest form of output, he is one of the most talented and hardworking people in hip-hop. So I'm not surprised that I loved it, and I actually wouldn't have been surprised if I hated it either, if it was all just, like, kind of troll-y stuff, like Lift Yourself, or just really kind of painfully, no, Kanye, that doesn't make sense, stuff like Ye versus the People. I might have just been like, this sucks, and I wouldn't have been shocked if that happened. But the fact that my biggest feeling I have right now is that, like, I'm proud of him for being so open and for writing music about, like, not just the controversies, but the real deep feelings he has behind those controversies that, like, led him to say and do these controversial and outright stupid things. Like, that to me is impressive, that he's writing about his mental illness so unabashedly and owning it in a way that I think is actually really inspiring. Like, I think this album can be inspiring for people that have bipolar disorder. In a certain way, like, I don't know, like, I don't think I am definitely not advocating that people go off their medication, and I don't think Kanye is doing good for the world when he seems to champion going off your medication and treating your manic episodes like a superpower. I don't think that's good, but it's like he talks about this stuff not acting like he should be demonized for it, and not acting like he should be pitied for it and such. And I think those are good attitudes to have, of course. What it actually reminds me a lot of, in some ways, is the album The Glow Part 2 by The Microphones. This is one of my favorite albums of all time, and it is I think probably in my top 5 favorite sad and depressing albums of all time. It's like largely around suicide and self-destructiveness and feelings of mental illness and mental distress. And it blows my mind how straightforward Phil Elveum is in writing this stuff, that he just straight up writes, like, I want to die. No, he never says, actually, I want to die, but yeah, it reminded me of that in its boldness. And I think through boldness you find awareness, right? If you look at, and I'm not trying to draw that cohesive of a parallel between these things, but if you look at like other civil rights type movements and movements around gaining acceptance and mainstream understanding, like gay pride, black pride, things like that, there's a feeling that you really do have to be bold. If you beat around the bush with these things, you're reinforcing the idea that they're qualities that you ought to be ashamed of. So even if you go, and again, this is where the analogy sort of breaks down, because I'm not sure where too far is for your more traditional civil rights things. But with mental illness, even if it means, you know, kind of painting bipolar disorder in a bad light, where you are doing these really destructive things, and talking about how you're bipolar, and of course creating kind of an association in people's mind, that's kind of going too far. But the boldness of it, and to say, well, I'm not ashamed about this, I want to have this conversation, I don't want to make this like my dirty secret, but instead to embrace it and to claim that it's my superpower. I think it's better to go too far in that direction than to not go at all in that direction. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling. It really makes me happy that he's working with Kid Cudi, who of course has also gone through a lot of struggles with mental illness and has also been public about it and has been shit on that by Drake. Man, I'm really not a big fan of Drake these days. Like, Nice for What is a banger, but this is like maybe the nadir of my opinion on Drake. I'm becoming a bit of a Drake hater. At any rate, yeah, Kid Cudi also very bravely came forward with some of his suicidal thoughts and such, and it's cool that like Kanye has his back in this way and that they're making an album together. I really doubted that album was coming out, but now this album's come out, so I'm ready to believe in anything. So I hope it comes out and it's great too. Okay, I don't know. I don't have anything else to say. This is quite the album. I'll probably listen to it again and again and again for quite a while. I hope you check it out too. I don't know. I assume if you've watched an hour of this video that you're kind of a Kanye fan, and I probably don't need to tell you that. But if you're just some other person that's subscribed to my channel and felt like watching an hour-long video of me listening to an album, and you're not really into Kanye, I don't know. Like, I think you really got to be open-minded about him. You can't judge it based on his perception in the media or anything like that. You got to just go to the actual source and listen to the music. It's the only way you can actually appreciate him. What I would recommend if you're a Kanye newbie, listen to College Dropout, Late Registration. I don't know. I would just listen to all of his major albums in order. So College Dropout, Late Registration, Graduation, 808s, MBDTF, Yeezus, Pablo, and now Yay. If you're in a rush and you are swearing up and down you can only listen to one album, make it this one. This is still his masterpiece for sure. Oh, what a beautiful album. Okay, that's all for now. Bye, bye, bye.